Time for another story. An episode with blue skies and good weather. Typically, this is what's needed to make anyone happy. However, that doesn't mean there are things out there that can ruin a good day. For Thomas and his friends, an example of this was working as a middle engine. Let's see who gets stuck here.
One morning, Percy was cheerfully collecting coal cars from the smelter yards, where Harry and Bert worked. Percy didn't want to fall for their tricks again. But before he knew it, he was stuck in the middle. "Oh, bother," chuffed Percy crossly. "Little green piggy in the middle."
Did I just hear a different voice again for a set of already established characters? You know, I'm really getting tired of these changes Baldwin keeps making. Just like how Percy was fed up with being stuck right in the middle. Because he knew someone was bound to call him out for it. Like James.
"You wouldn't be laughing if you were stuck in the middle," Percy fumed. And he fumed all the way to the coaling plant. One by one, he shunted his coal cars onto the tipper's loading ramp, and the coal was unloaded. Percy was not allowed to cross the loading ramp until the tipper had been turned off.
And if that isn't a key indicator that the loading ramp would play any significant part in this story, you'd be wrong. Jeez, Percy just isn't having a very good day, is he? This is like Put Upon Percy, but times 2. I mean, it isn't Henry's fault for accidentally pushing him onto the loading ramp. But yeah, no bueno.
Tipped over and brought back down again. After Percy was lowered back onto the ground, the manager was very cross. "You have caused confusion and delay."
Okay, that was a funny voice. But of course, that doesn't take away Top Hat being upset with Percy. Which still doesn't make sense, though, when it was an accident that he couldn't help. And if the problem were to be figured out, nobody should really be blamed since Henry couldn't see behind him either. If we are basing judgment on the engines to begin with, and not their operators.
"You will shunt freight cars in the yards until I can get to the bottom of this." "Ha!" said James, thinking no one could hear. "I could handle those diesels with bent buffers and a busted boiler." "Then you will do Percy's run to the smelter," said Sir Topham Hatt. "Yes, sir," said James.
Ha! Serves you right, James, for being Mr. Outspoken. Think you can do better? Well, then Top Hat will serve what you ask for. Now the question is, was James going to be stuck too? Well, being that this story is playing out in some ways like past Gordonisms, we will have to see now, won't we?
"Hello, James," oozed Harry. "Come to learn a thing or two from those who know?" "Just get my freight cars ready and stay out of my way," huffed James importantly. "Yes, sir," Bert chimed greasily. James cheerfully backed up to his freight cars.
However, that grin didn't last long because, just as expected, Harry and Bert were able to corner him in between two lines of trucks. I would feel sorry for James if he didn't act like he did before, but hey, it is what it is. The difference was, though, to avoid being mocked, James didn't move at all.
When Sir Topham Hatt heard the news, he sent Percy to fetch James. This made Percy happy. He buffered up to James and took him, along with all the freight cars, to the docks.
What? I would think James is pushing somewhat too, no? Percy can't move all those trucks and James's dead weight, can he? The script should have clarified that. The good news is Percy was able to get everything where it needed to be, except for James, who didn't want to be noticed by anybody.
"But what is that big red engine doing in the middle?" "Learning to be a middle engine," Percy laughed. James covered himself in steam, hoping no one would recognize him. But it was no good. There was only one big red engine on the island, and everyone knows his name is James.
Yes, sir. The embarrassment is way up there. Oh well. You did yourself in that time, James. This was a better story than the last couple because the show has not tackled placement issues before when it comes to the engines. That, and there are certain dangers that come with being a middle engine that had never been brought up either, albeit if that's by themselves. If it's like the one where you have one in the middle and one in front, then it lessens the trouble. James has had plenty of his own Gordonisms, but when it comes to this scenario, this was a first for him. What also was a first were the official names to both Ironwork diesels, Harry and Bert, and the obnoxious consistency issues Baldwin is seeming to have this season. I just don't understand why. Did he feel his original voices for them and Stepney Gets Lost wasn't dastardly sounding enough? Anyway, the music to this entry wasn't too unique sounding either when it came to characters. Percy's theme was heard as he passes through Callan Station, and there was a classic incidental cue at the end. But a theme for Ari and Bert felt rather lazy, if that's even considered a motif for them. It sounded like a really simple version of Diesel's, with nothing truly defining itself. What's going on here, O'Donnell and Campbell? I feel like we're getting less and less creativity here. As for visuals, there were several places shown like the wonderful viaduct, Marin Station, and Tidmouth Sheds. However, the places that took center stage were the smelter's yard and the coaling plant, where viewers got to see the loading ramp in action. Luckily, Percy didn't come off and fall into it. Next episode is James and the Red Balloon. Thanks for watching.